we're joined by Mike Mayock. You can hear Mike every week on the Believe in Eagles podcast with Lee Mayock. What's up, Mike? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
What up, Mike?
Mike, do you know it's Ike's birthday?
Oh, man. Ike, is it really? Happy birthday, brother.
Yes, thank you, brother.
How old are you, man?
Too old, Mike, too old.
No. Give me a number, brother.
52.
52 is nothing.
Yes.
Are you kidding me? You're a puppy.
Yeah, look at how good he looks for 52.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
So, Mike, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Jordan Mailata to start, same question I asked Sho Kapadia. Let's see what your answer is. If, given what you are seeing with the Eagles right now, if I were to ask you, give me something that they are doing particularly well that gives me a little optimism moving forward, what would your answer be?
Oh, boy. That's not a good question right now.
That is the same answer.
That's a consensus answer right there.
Even from Jordan. Yeah, that is because, we've talked a little bit about how the league overall, it doesn't seem like there's a dominant team right now. But for most of the good teams, you can look around and say, "Oh, they're doing this well." The problem with the Eagles that we seem to be finding is that it's hard, defensively or offensively, to say here is something that this team is about that they can sort of hang their hat on moving forward.
We talked several weeks ago when they were undefeated.
Yes.
About how I didn't feel like they had an identity offensively. Right. And I feel the same way now. And they're 4-2 coming off a mini bye. And, I saw a stat the other day, which was kind of frightening, which was they've been outgained every game this year.
Yep.
Which is only the sixth team in the last 85 years with a winning record that was outgained every game through 6. And the other 5 have collectively 0 playoff wins. So it's really not a good benchmark for where the Eagles are today. I break down the film and I look at all that. And sometimes I feel like that's a little bit overwhelming to talk about, particularly. And I'm getting frustrated because each week I'm seeing the same things. And to be really honest, I think the most important thing to me is that you have to win up front on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And we spent a lot of time with Jalen and the wideouts and Saquon and why aren't we running the ball? And at the end of the day, I keep coming back to this fact, and that is the Eagles, as much as I love Stout, and I think they will fix it, it is a process, but the Eagles' offensive line played significantly better last year than they have this year. And, if you want to give them a little bit of a pass, Toth is not a starting guard. Steen effectively is a first-year player. Juergens is a third-year player. So the interior O-line, that's not a lot of seasoning by NFL standards. And, again, to be honest, as much as I love the tackles and have more respect for those 2 tackles maybe than I've watched all their games, but Mailata and Lane Johnson are not playing up to their standard either. And I think that's the beginning of everything on the offensive side of the line of scrimmage.
Well, and when you say an identity, because we talked on the day of the Giants game, and your what you wanted to see them do was, I don't care if we're not working, run the ball. And it's amazing because the first couple of Saquon runs were great. And I said to myself, there it is.
Yeah, here we go.
There it is. And then all of a sudden it disappeared. And it has to be so difficult to establish an identity when you can't do the one thing that has been your identity in the entire, I'm just saying, the entire Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni era, the running game has been the thing that they've been able to hang their hat on, and it doesn't seem like they're able to do it.
Yeah, and Saquon took himself out after that second run. Something happened to him. He was gesturing to his helmet or his eyes or something. And then he didn't come back in. Dillon, I think, went for -2 or -3, and then they threw the ball and kicked a field goal.
Yeah.
But as bad as it all was at halftime, they threw the ball for plus close to 200 yards, and had 17 points on the board. They're down 3. They don't score another touchdown. They ran the ball 3 or 4 times in the second half for like 5 yards. And again, I don't understand who they are and what they're trying to do, but I do believe in the people in charge. That's what I hope for.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time talking about that offense and that offensive line, Mike. You know, one of the things that helped them be as good as they were last year and really stay committed to a running game, even when things weren't going well, is that their defense played so much better last year. It started up front for them. And this year, I just don't see where they're getting anything from this defensive line from a production standpoint. Other than Jordan Davis in those first few games, it just feels like we're not getting any big plays up front. And with Zadarius Smith abruptly retiring, I mean, that just hurts the depth on this line, which it really couldn't afford to have.
Yeah, and I think you're getting to the heart of what dynamic, the term dynamic means on defense. It's usually generated by your defensive line, whether it's hitting the quarterback, pressuring the quarterback, getting him off the spot, sacking the quarterback, but it typically leads to dynamic plays for your defense. And the Eagles aren't getting that. They're not getting the turnovers. They're not getting the big plays on defense. You know, it's tough with against the Giants. No Jalen Carter, no Nolan Smith. Quinyon Mitchell goes out early. That's okay. That's tough. I get it. But the dynamic plays are not there. We talked about the 2 offensive tackles not playing to their standard. I mean, even Jalen Carter, when he's played this year, I don't think he's played to his standard. And, we early in the year, Vic was talking about how, he was coming off some stuff in camp and they had to get him in shape, but he's playing over 90% of the snaps. And the Eagles need more from him as far as dynamic plays are concerned. Because if they don't get it from him, I don't think they're going to get it from anybody until Nolan Smith comes back.
Former GM Mike Mayock, you've been around this business a long time, Mike. We get around this time of the year, you get close to the trade deadline, we're trying to figure out how do you improve the team. And I'm assuming from your viewpoint, you have to decide at some point, is the team worth the investment or reinvestment of going out and trying to acquire players via trade, giving up draft capital, what have you? Where you see the Eagles at right now, we're 3 or 4 weeks away from that trade deadline. You still feel like this is a team that you would be willing to invest in if there's a trade out there that could upgrade this roster somewhere, particularly on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I do. It has to make sense, I think. Big picture, Ike, as far as what you're trying to do next year and the year after also. Every once in a while you can just say, nah, forget it. I'm going to go get somebody. And if it's a 1-year rental for 6 weeks, that's okay. Right?
Yep.
And that is okay. If 23 team, it could go the way of the 24 team.
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary. So I don't think all the pieces are in place yet for Howie. But the one thing I would tell you about Howie, because I know it personally, is he's making more phone calls, and I've told you guys this, than any GM in the league. And he's doing it now. And he's out there banging out there, looking for those 2 positions. And if something makes sense, he'll pull the trigger.
Mike, one more, just to jump back to the offense for a second. There has been so much conversation on the air, online with the players about the predictability issue, or if that is an issue on offense. Do you think that is something that is holding them back in that they are doing the same things at the same times, or is it more that they're putting themselves in situations where that ends up being the case?
I think there's different definitions of predictability, and I'm gonna bring Ike in on this too, because Ike and I were both defensive players. Okay.
Yep.
So I always used to think, what made me uncomfortable as a defensive player, or made our defense in general uncomfortable, and it typically was things that made you think more. Okay.
Yeah.
For instance, motion, change of strength of the offense.
Yeah.
Resetting personnel. That's one way that you've got to think more. If you just line up in a static position offensively, we don't have to think on defense. We got our coverages and we're ready to roll. You change the strength, all the fits change in the run game. Everything changes. That's point number one. Number two, an occasional gadget play. Like, you can't just let the backside of the defense chase Saquon down every snap. And they have had an occasional gadget play, but you've got to have something that's a double pass or the Nick Foles play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Or you've got to have something where the players kind of look forward to practice it, and at the right time, a good play caller can call it. And what's interesting is I watched the Minnesota tape last week, and they ran a gadget play for a touchdown, double pass, from I forget who it was, the wide out or the tight end threw it. I forget who it was. And they also go no huddle, which that's the third thing, Ike, that I think makes which makes defenses get nervous.
Yes.
No huddle tempo. What are we doing? Who's our personnel? Are we ready? Can we get set up and go? Even if the offense slows it down at the line of scrimmage, you still get the defense thinking more. So in my mind, these are simple things. You're not really changing much in the infrastructure of your offense. You can add some motion. You can add some movement. You can go up tempo. You can throw a gadget in there or two. You can mix up your personnel.
Yeah. These
are all things that keeps us as defensive players off the field, and I don't think they're major changes to what you want to do offensively. So that's how
I totally agree with you. It also puts a defense on his heels, so it makes us a little more hesitant versus we're playing downhill and we're playing fast. We have to, like you said, the thinking part of it as a defense, the less you have to think, the more instinctive and more reactive you can be as a player. The more you have to think, that's never good on the defensive side of the football, and that's why guys like McVay, Sean Payton, Kyle Shanahan, those guys are such great play designers because they give you all of the pre-snap stuff to try to confuse a defense. And like you said, you can even mix up tempo, and that doesn't allow a defense to change personnel. It lessens communication, so it can cause confusion on the defensive side of the ball. And that's really what you want as an offense, is a blown coverage or a missed assignment that you can take advantage of. And that's what we're not doing as an offense, presenting it to defenses. We really are allowing defenses to really just play without really giving them a lot to think about.
That is so well said. And on top of all of that, you mentioned several guys. I would throw in Andy Reid.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Coach. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
I'd throw in Andy. I'd throw in John Gruden. And the amazing thing is the common denominator from all those guys offensively is, even though they've got all the French pastry and it looks fancy, at its basic, it's just a basic offense.
Still the same.
With a core of plays. They don't have a lot of plays. They just do them really well.
Yep.
So Vikings on Sunday, what are we running into here? What do, aside from, Justin Jefferson, obviously a great player, what do the Eagles have to worry about on both sides of the ball on Sunday in this game?
I think it's a really tough a really tough challenge for the Eagles offense, because I've known Brian Flores for years. He's a Boston College guy, and he's like the king of simulated pressure. So you're going to see 6, 7, 8 guys salivating at the line of scrimmage, and you have no idea which 4 or 5 are coming. They're number 2 in the NFL, both in pressure rate and blitz rate, which is one of the worst things the Eagles have done this year. They've allowed a 40% pressure rate this year. So their strength, the Vikings' defensive strength, is a Philadelphia weakness. They're number 2 in third downs allowed. They're only allowing 30%. I think the Eagles were 1 for 9 last week. So they're giving up 19 points a game, which is 4th or 5th best in the league. So defensively, they're really solid. They do things really well that will give the Eagles problems. The flip side of the ball, you're right. They've got really good wideouts. They got a good tight end in Hawkinson. They run the ball well. Carson Wentz will probably get the start, I'm thinking, this week. And I think their head coach fits in with the other guys that Ike and I were talking about.
Kevin O'Connell,
Kevin O'Connell is one of the guys that really makes quarterbacks comfortable. And I'm talking about all year round and especially on Sundays. So he brings the best out in his quarterbacks. I think it's going to come down to some turnovers like usual. The Eagles were -2 in turnover differential. You know, the last 2 weeks, the Eagles have gotten beat the same way, basically. I mean, they've had two young quarterbacks not throw the ball, but run the ball, scramble really well, effectively against them. They've had two teams run the football right up their butts. You know, they've given up, you know, they've had two teams run it 30 and 39 dimes for over 4.5 yards a pop. So it sometimes, Spike, it gets frighteningly simple. You know, they got to stop the run. They can't let Jefferson go wild. And I think it's a tough matchup for their offense.
Well, great to hear. Great to hear. All right,
well,
Mike.
Hey, Spike, here's the last thing. Based on what I told you last Thursday,
yes.
Be very optimistic because I missed on everything.
Well, but I think everybody,
we all did.
Yeah, everybody said the same thing.
Yeah.
Everybody said to themselves, well, how is this Giants offense with a rookie quarterback, with Neighbors hurt, how are they going to score any points? And then 30 points later with Cam Scatterbo, you know, running all over us. I don't think he's a good player, but I don't think anybody saw that coming.
Yep.
All right, Mike, thank you as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks.
There he is, Mike Mayock. That is the third person I've asked for one good thing that they're doing who they go, ooh,
Oh, man.
I don't know.